On this edition of Southern Newsweek, a new stock market trading room is opened at the University of Otago. More than a decade after the earthquakes, we explore Christchurch's cathedral. And ID Fashion Show is set to return to the railway station. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Hannah Wilkins. The bells have rung, the trading room is open, and now commerce students will get real life experience on the floor while studying in Dunedin. Minister of Finance Grant Robertson recently opened the new space at the University of Otago's Business School.
Ringing the changes at the Otago Business School. Finance Minister Grant Robertson signalling the official opening of Te Taura Takata, also known as the University of Otago BNZ Bloomberg Markets Lab.
This is where people are seeing the trends in the economy in real time, and scary as that might be, it's also no doubt an incredibly fascinating experience.
The lab is fitted with 17 Bloomberg terminals and software which provides up-to-the-date business and market news, data and analysis. Minister Robertson glad to return to his place of study, saying the facility can well be proud of the progress it's made.
And I am delighted to be able to officially open Te Taura Takata today. You should all be immensely proud. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Students have been using the lab since the summer school period began in January, but the official opening was delayed due to COVID-19 restrictions. The room has been funded by BNZ and will be used for teaching both finance and accountancy classes, as well as for academic research. In Dunedin, a South Today.
The first people were recently allowed back inside the severely quake-damaged Christchurch Cathedral. After stringent safety precautions were completed, engineers were allowed through the doors.
Footage has emerged of the first human entry inside the earthquake-damaged Christchurch Cathedral. Workers were inside for 10 minutes to check for any engineering or safety concerns before stabilisation work on the columns begin. External steel supports mitigated any risk of collapse. Over the last 6 weeks, remotely operated diggers have been clearing the rubble from inside the cathedral. The operation has successfully removed up to 250 tonnes of material. The re-entry marks the near completion of the Stage 1 stabilisation phase. The second phase of the project involves the strengthening and reinstatement of the main cathedral and the addition of a new tower. In Christchurch, the South Today.
The team at Lund Construction have achieved a significant milestone at Dunedin's Loan and Mercantile building. Workers are undertaking the last earthquake strengthening concrete pour.
This building in Dunedin's Wharf area has been the site of a major makeover for the past few years. The Lund Construction project achieving a significant milestone yesterday.
Well, this is the last floor pour for the strengthening work in the building. So we've poured concrete toppings over the top floor and this floor, and that ties the walls into the floors and creates a structural diaphragm.
Several workers guide liquid concrete to where it needs to be in order to further earthquake strengthen the NZ Loan and Mercantile building on Thomas Burns Street. Building owner and developer Russell Lund says more than 100 apartments and businesses are coming to the city's harbour district.
The work really started in earnest in 2018 when we did most of the concrete toppings up on the top level, and then we've been working this year on this level.
Last year, the Dunedin City Council granted a resource consent for the subdivision of the building. Lund says apartments are well underway on the upper floors while the earthquake strengthening work continues below. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The Morsgill Melody Makers program is aimed at giving young people with disabilities the chance to shine. Run by charitable organisation Star Jam, the workshops of music, movement and song helps to improve the confidence of the group.
Exuberant energy abounds as the Morsgill Melody Makers gather for an evening of music and movement. These performance workshops for young people with disabilities are run by charitable trust Star Jam. Tutor Claudia Cook says the members, called Jammers, meet every week to rehearse their performance pieces.
So we'll spend some time working on one of the pieces, maybe use some percussion, have a break, have some water, start on the second piece.
And a favourite weekly moment for Claudia is finishing the night with a Spot the Talent session.
And that's when the Jammers have their own time to get up and perform by themselves solo or with a group. And it's just really, really cool to see their confidence grow and see them develop.
The Mosgiel Melody Makers are planning to join other Star Jam groups in December for an end-of-year performance. In Mosgiel, the South Today.
One of Dunedin's up-and-coming breweries has opened a new tap room near the heart of the city. After 5 years of brewing to supply other venues, the Noisy Beer Company is now selling beer by the glassful directly to its customers.
Clearly a stout man. A new taproom has just opened up in central Dunedin. In a wordplay on his surname, the bar's owner, Chris Noy, has called his brewery the Noisy Beer Company. He and his partner started out with a small brewery in Kaikorai Valley about 5 years ago, and this is his first foray into being open to the public and selling beer by the glass. To keep things interesting for both himself and his customers, he's planning to regularly change the types of beer on offer.
We don't really have a core range of 5 or 6 beers that are always available. We're kind of making something new every week.
The tap room is on Anzac Avenue, and to keep things easy, the bar's food is made right next door.
The kind of core menu we have is actually provided by the guys at Ironic next door, so we're pretty lucky and pretty stoked to have them doing the food for us.
The Noisy Brewing Company's taproom is open from Thursday to Saturday, plus Sunday afternoons. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The ID Dunedin Fashion Show is returning to its former stomping ground next year. After around 5 years of moving around other venues, including Dunedin's Town Hall and the Otago Museum, those behind one of the city's flagship events say it was time to come home on April the 1st next year.
Organisers say moving ID Dunedin Fashion Week back to the railway station is not a long-running April Fool's joke.
It's no laughing matter, Darryl.
But after about 5 years at other venues, ID Dunedin Fashion Week 2023 will be again based around the city's historic railway station. The co-chairs of Dunedin ID Fashion Week say the railway station has been beloved by ID fans for many years.
Well, we've always wanted to come back here, and we didn't think we could because we've got all the building going on, but we pleaded with the Dunedin City Council.
In 2017, on a return trip to the city, former Dunedin modelling twins Nellie and Elsa Jenkins were sad the 2018 events were moving away from the iconic venue.
Yeah, it's quite shocking. I mean, it's one of Dunedin's most iconic kind of shows, and country's most iconic shows, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, It's very well known across the globe.
The Dunedin City Council and Otago Polytech are supporting the 2023 event, with organisers looking forward to welcoming further sponsors on board.
We have put together a sponsorship package. Now that we've got a date, of course we can be out there now speaking to people who might be interested in offering sponsorship. Applications
to take part in ID Dunedin 2023 close in October, while emerging designers have until the end of November to put their best feet forward. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come after the break on Southern Newsweek, Coronet Peak celebrates 75 years of skiing, and firefighters from the south climb Auckland's Sky Tower for a good cause. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Tourism businesses at Fox Glacier have been hit twice. First with the road to the glacier being permanently closed, and then with COVID-19 closing the country's borders. But the return of a rare bird to the surrounding forests may give ecotourism a much needed boost.
Bouncing back from the downturn, the tourist township of Fox Glacier has been badly affected by the absence of overseas tourists due to closed borders, as well as a massive landslide permanently blocking the road access to the glacier itself. However, Marius Bron of Fox Glacier Guiding says they're now seeing a slow trickle of tourists returning to the area.
It's been challenging, transitioning back to busier times and being able to hold stock, and everyone's sort of transitioning and getting the head round a busier business again.
The government spent nearly $4 million from its tourist levy fund upgrading tracks to try and encourage visitors to return to the area. And following an extensive program of trapping and poisoning predators, the forests around Fox Glacier are now stocked with New Zealand's rarest kiwi. Hatched from spare eggs harvested from the wild, the Okarito kiwi, also called roe, are being released at Okarito as well as Fox Glacier.
They've been spotted, more than 10 kilometres radius from the drop zones. It's pretty exciting really to see them spread out.
Night tours to spot the kiwi in the wild are already being done on a small scale at nearby Okarito. And more kiwi spotting eco-tourist ventures are possible for Fox Glacier in the future. In Fox Glacier, the South Today.
Queenstown's Coronet Peak ski field was making the most of its 75th anniversary with a week of festivities to celebrate the milestone. Special events included a few nods to the ski area's history, such as a challenging race featuring old-fashioned straight skis and a fashion parade showcasing retro ski styles.
An exciting day at Coronet Peak in Queenstown. Coronet Peak is celebrating its 75th anniversary this week as New Zealand's first commercial ski field. Festivities were in full swing, with events like the straight ski race and Dash for Cash showing off skiers' abilities. A $5,000 prize was split between the men's and women's categories for the Dash for Cash event. Skiers used a mix of running and speedy skiing to come out on top.
It was tiring, super exciting, really nervous at the start. My legs were shaking and everything, and once it was gone, it was, gone.
The entry fees from the event go toward the Bruce Grant Youth Trust, which supports young achievers in the Wakatipu. The long lunch was another top-tier event for the day. Sir Henry Wigley's children attended the event, along with NZ Ski CEO Paul Anderson. Coronet Peak Ski Area Manager Nigel Kerr says he is stoked on how the event turned out.
There's a lot of fun in here, but there's also a bit of relief that yes, a year's work is coming to fruition.
At Coronet Peak, the South Today.
Firefighters from across Otago and Southland were among the dedicated crews tackling this year's Firefighter Sky Tower Challenge over the weekend. More than 900 firefighters from around Aotearoa walked up the 51 flights of stairs at the Auckland landmark, carrying up to 25 kilos of gear.
Kitting up in breathing gear and protective clothing, Southern firefighters joined colleagues from around the country in the annual Sky Tower Challenge. It was the 18th consecutive year of the fundraising event, and some participants had a personal reason to take on more than 1,000 stairs.
To turn around and give support to my stepfather, who's recently been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Members of the emergency response teams from Oceania Gold's Macrae's mine among the crews competing in the event. Months of training paid off for the 10-person mine team from East Otago, who were still able to smile after completing the gruelling 51-flight challenge while carrying 25 kilos of gear and wearing protective suits.
I'm here to support the Leukemia Trust, and after our fundraising effort by the team, we're going to climb the Sky Tower.
Together with their emergency response colleagues from the Waihi gold mine near Tauranga, the Oceania Gold crews raised more than $65,000 for leukemia and blood cancer New Zealand. But many were relieved to get their tired and sweaty bodies to the top of the Auckland landmark.
Oh, it's definitely harder than I remember. Oh, great stuff though.
This year's event had been postponed from May due to COVID-19, with firefighters collectively raising more than $1.2 million at this year's challenge. From Auckland, the South Today.
Work has begun on the next stage of the redevelopment of Christchurch's Lancaster Park with the restoration of its historic entranceway. The 97-year-old War Memorial Gates are undergoing an extensive structural rebuild with the goal of reopening by the end of the year.
Millions of people over the best part of the last century have walked through these historic gates to get into events at Lancaster Park. The gates were built in 1924 to commemorate the sacrifice of Canterbury athletes during World War I, but were badly damaged in the 2011 earthquake. Now work's begun to rebuild this important piece of Christchurch's heritage.
As we dug deeper, we found quite a bit of work that needed to be done. Concrete cancer was a phrase that came out, so very old concrete, wasn't structurally sound anymore, so we're basically having to rebuild it.
The extensive rebuild of the 97-year-old gates is expected to cost about $1.8 million. And the project team are making sure all the historical elements of the building's restoration are respected.
This place has been the region's sporting mecca for so many decades. It's really important that we retain these really, really important historical monuments.
It's hoped the Lancaster Park War Memorial Gates can reopen later this year. In Christchurch, the South Today.
Concerns have been raised over future effectiveness of stop banks along the Matoda River. Environment Southland held a drop-in clinic at Matoda recently to provide local residents with more information.
Addressing residents' concerns, Mataura locals had the opportunity to attend a drop-in clinic recently regarding stop banks on the Mataura River. The river's flows have been relatively stable over the last 30 years, but Paul House of Environment Southland says NIWA predicts the next 20 years could be different as weather patterns and climate change take effect. That could result in more frequent floods at a higher level and for longer duration.
The flood banks have worked really well for the last 30 years and they've done the job that they were supposed to do. But the job that they need to do in the future is going to be more challenging, and so that's why we're working hard to figure out what changes we need to make.
The river has been in the back of residents' minds for more than 100 years. Local Tom McCord recalls his father telling him of the 1913 flood, where guns were fired in the early hours of the morning to warn residents of the flooding threat.
He heard a shotgun going off, bang, bang, you know. So we thought he'd get up and see what the noise was about. And there were men out in boats with a shotgun waking people up.
Environment Southland has already completed an assessment of the Mataura River stop banks at both Gore and Waimumu. It's hoping to complete an assessment of the stop banks that protect Mataura by Christmas. In Mataura, the South Today.
This Friday was the Cancer Society's annual fundraiser Daffodil Day, and in the lead-up, vintage car clubs across the country were helping to promote and raise funds for the worthy cause.
Beautifully restored old cars have been part of the Cancer Society's annual fundraiser this week. Each year, every vintage car club across New Zealand makes a point of hosting a fundraising car run on the Sunday before Daffodil Day. The Gore Club raised more than $800 with a fun run from Gore to Roxburgh with 38 cars taking part.
It's an event just for like-minded enthusiasts, but also to fundraise for a very worthy cause that a lot of people have a connection with in some way, of family, friends. The cancer is so widespread throughout New Zealand and the world for that matter that it's a good cause to support.
And the Otago Vintage Car Club also helps out each year with delivering the daffodils that have been pre-ordered by businesses. Club member Graham Duthie says using the vintage cars for the deliveries is a fun way to promote the worthy cause.
It's a thing where you bring our cars out normally and use our vintage cars, and that publicises it more.
Daffodil Day has been held on the last Friday of August for more than 30 years. As well as a fundraiser, it also symbolises hope for all New Zealanders impacted by cancer. In Gore and Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come after the break on Southern Newsweek, Gore youngsters get to have a close-up look at big rigs, and people in Balclutha have their hair dyed blue for a good cause. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Organisers of Southland's Hug a Rig Day are celebrating another successful event. The free event gives people of all ages with special needs or lifelong medical conditions the chance to ride in a big rig truck, classic car or hot rod.
Drivers of big rig trucks and hot rods giving the treat of free rides to people who might not otherwise get to experience it. The Southland Hug a Rig Day is held each year and organised by Ian and Diane Elstob.
So it's an event that Ian and I are both really proud of, because we both have we have two special needs sons ourselves. So we know actually how important these sort of events are for these people that don't get to do this in their everyday life.
Diane Elstob says the looks on people's faces makes it all worthwhile. This year there was just the right number of participants for the vehicles, which meant no waiting in queues or vehicles waiting for passengers. About 70 volunteers staffed the event, with organisers thankful for support from the Rapid Relief team, who made sure participants and volunteers were fed and watered. In Gore, the South Today.
Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell has welcomed a group of international students to her city. Their arrival heralds the start of a recovery for the city's international students program.
Not every group of students gets to meet a mayor on their first visit to a new country. 13 international students out of an influx of 160 have been welcomed to the city by Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell. A recent global marketing campaign has raised New Zealand's profile. It achieved significant international media coverage and has helped contribute to the current influx of students.
So if you're ready for new, take a new look at a New Zealand education.
I am from Saigon and it's the southern part of Vietnam. My brother studied here in Auckland, so he recommended me to come here in New Zealand. I'm studying economics, accounting and game design for fun.
Vi Nguyen, another Vietnamese student, has her own reasons for coming to New Zealand.
I read on the internet and I also read on the school website that they have like really nice environment, and there's also like the subject that I love, they are really good at that. I think also because their uniform, like this uniform looks really cute.
And with the borders now open, Christchurch politicians and educators are looking forward to continuing to rebuild the city's international student program. In Christchurch, the South Today.
A group of people in Balclutha are preparing to mark Blue September. The Prostate Cancer Foundation welcomes people hosting events in September to raise awareness of the disease across the country.
It's a good thing staff at Balclutha's Mask Beauty and Hair had an ample supply of peroxide and blue hair dye on hand, as a collection of southern blokes joined the Blue Rinse Brigade, in a manner of speaking. Salon owner Amber Field was happy to help the men prepare to take part in Prostate Cancer New Zealand's Blue September events.
Get checked is important. You know, we only have one life at the end of the day. Sooner we get things checked and find out, the easier it is to seek treatment, etc.
1 in every 8 Kiwi men will be affected by prostate cancer. Clutha leader reporter Nick Brook outlines a key issue facing the foundation.
The Prostate Cancer Foundation in New Zealand supports men and their families across the country who are suffering from the disease. They receive no government funding and rely entirely on public generation.
Another participant at this week's hair dyeing session, Simon Cleverly, says it's all about raising awareness.
It's when people come up and say, well, have you dyed your hair blue, or what are you on about, or what's going on here, we can start a conversation about their health. So I think it's a great idea, even though I look ridiculous.
The Prostate Cancer Foundation says there are a number of potential indicators of prostate ill health, including difficulty passing urine and personal functioning. The foundation recommends all men 50 and above get regularly checked by their GP. In Balclutha, the South Today.
Cross-country skiers got the chance to prove themselves last weekend at the Snow Farm after a 3-year break. The Skate Ski National Championship saw about 50 competitors racing each other over the 10-kilometre course near Wanaka.
Giving their all, about 50 cross-country skiers slogged it out on multiple laps at the State Ski National Championships at Cardrona's Snow Farm on Saturday. Waiorau Nordic Sports Club President Bruce Clulo was pleased to have the event back after a 3-year absence caused by COVID-19 and snow conditions. He believes the event's important as an encouragement for younger skiers.
We've got a core group of upcoming young skiers that show a lot of potential, and it's really important to have these races and events at a national level to give them some recognition.
Other people enjoying the beautiful weather included casual cross-country skiers and a team of Paralympic skiers from Canada who visit Snow Farm for 3 weeks each year.
Kind of the cornerstone of our training for us in the summer, to be able to come down here and really work on technique and focus on snow. And you can't ask for a more beautiful place to come train.
The next big event at Snow Farm is the Merino Muster, a 21-kilometre long-distance race scheduled for this coming weekend. Near Cardrona, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.